ever have moments in Minecraft where you're just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over? Welcome to my week on the Bedrock Guide. I've dug a massive hole, and not only that, I've cut out a huge chunk of this mountainside. If you remember, it used to come up within a couple of blocks of this side of the iron farm, also known as the Iron Garden. I've started building the towers up just a little bit, no details, just basic shape. We'll get there at some point. But today's project is gonna be down here. Today, I'm gonna be building a gold farm for a couple of reasons, and the first of which is that gold farms provide a lot of gold. If you remember a few episodes ago, I built a bartering farm to get an extra source of quartz for the lovely builds we have going up topside, and I don't really have a source of gold yet to feed that bartering farm, and so today's project will solve that problem. The other problem it will solve is the problem of my pickaxe. It's almost time to repair, and I don't have a great way of repairing my tools that doesn't require me to go to the nether and fly a few hundred blocks away to the blaze farm. I'm looking for something overworld and right here at the base. And portal ticking gold farms are absolutely incredible, and you'll see a little bit later why. So allow me to drive myself crazy for a few more minutes, filling this water in and then digging out a few more layers, and I believe we're about there. So here we are in the end, and I've finished digging in one location just to start digging in another. My life is so exciting. But this time, I'm actually digging for resources that I need. In order to build a portal-ticking gold farm, it shouldn't surprise you that you need portals, and in order to build portals, you need mass quantities of obsidian, and the best place to get mass quantities of obsidian is in the end by ripping down these pillars on the main end island. Don't worry, whenever we respawn the dragon to fight it again, all of these pillars will magically reappear every single time. So it's an infinite source of obsidian, just in case you need like a million portals or something. I'm only gonna need 5. And for those 5 portals, I believe I need just under 7 stacks of obsidian. So I'm gonna get 7 just to have a little extra, and then we'll go get the rest of the stuff. So we've gone from my base to the end, and now thousands of blocks in the other direction just to freeze, trying to find the next resource, which I don't see just yet. Oh, there we go. This right here is blue ice, and this is the perfect ice for the gold farm we're gonna be building today. There's actually 3 different types of ice in the game, and this is the most preferred. If you're like me and you haven't had much luck finding blue ice under the water, you can actually craft it, but it's gonna cost you. If you take 9 regular ice, you can craft 1 packed ice. And then if you craft 9 packed ice, you can craft 1 blue ice. So it will take you 81 regular ice to get 1 blue ice, or 5,184 regular ice to get a stack of blue ice. So mining for regular ice, definitely not the way to go. What you're gonna wanna do is find a giant glacier biome that has a ton of packed ice at the ready, and then we can just craft that into blue ice. So why do we want blue ice? Well, we'll talk about that when we get to building the farm. All right, I've got my blue ice and my obsidian along with a bunch of other random materials for this build, and I'm gonna start out by building the portals first. I already have some obsidian laid down on the ground, but this is just a guide to show us where the portals are gonna go, because we're gonna start right here 11 blocks above the ground, and this piece of obsidian right here is the center point for each portal, and I'm gonna go 11 blocks each direction. Not only is it going to be 23 blocks long, it's going to be 23 blocks high, because that is the maximum size that you can build a portal. So, portal frame number 1 is done. I need to do this 4 more times. I now have 5 23 by 23 portal frames, and they are evenly spaced 2 blocks apart each. The next thing I need to do is wire up something that's going to ignite these and tick them rapidly on and off. On each frame, I'm going to place 1 block right here in the far corner, and facing inward toward the portal frame, I'm going to place 1 dispenser, followed by a transparent block like glass that will not pick up a redstone signal, and another another dispenser facing into the portal as well. I'm gonna do this for every single portal frame, and once every single portal frame has dispensers attached, we need a way to connect them up. I'm going to use concrete to build out some infrastructure for this, but on the middle portal frame, I'm actually going to raise this up by 1 block. This will be important later. Starting on the very end, I'm going to take some redstone dust and run it out of each dispenser and connect it all up in a line, but I'm going to skip this block that's right next to the elevated block, and then I'll repeat the same thing over on this side to connect up these, and then I'm going to place 1 redstone torch on either side of this block right here so that these are lit by default. Then to keep things nice and clean and separate, I'm going to put another row of redstone directly above this, but I'm going to use glass this time, and I'm going to leave this block empty and then fill in the rest. Then I'm going to do the same thing and run redstone all the way across, and then I'm going to include redstone on top of this block so that it connects all the way across this top row of glass. Just to note, the bottom one should be on by default and this one should be off. The dispensers that will ignite and extinguish the portals are all wired up, but we need the circuitry in place to fire these dispensers so that that will actually happen. And this circuit was actually part of a design that my good friends Nogri and Puggy shared with me. They've got a really awesome gold farm that I actually took some elements from and adapted it into my own design. So huge shout out to those guys and thank you for sharing some of your knowledge. So this circuit that we're about to build right here is actually part of their farm. I'm going to place a temporary block right here and then another block right on top. Out of the side of this block is going to be a redstone block, and then I'm going to pillar up 3 temporary blocks and dig out these 2 right here. And then if I can angle this correctly, I need a downward facing sticky piston right here. It didn't work. Hold on. How about now? There we go. On top of this block right here, I'm going to place 1 piece of redstone dust and then another block on top of that, followed by another block, and I can actually remove that temporary block now. And then on top of this block next to the sticky piston, I'm going to put some redstone dust here, which is going to be important for a torch tower we're going to build in a little bit. And this part of the torch tower right here is going to power this piston to turn on. And because it is a sticky piston, it does grab a hold of that redstone block right there. Then we can remove this block right here because, again, it is a temporary block. And then I'll place another block right next to this one, but I do not want redstone to connect back up here because it will cause a little bit of a loop. So I'm going to put 1 repeater and leave it at the default setting, followed by a block right here and redstone dust right here. So if I break this redstone torch, we'll see everything start to kick into action, which this is really cool and all, but these portals aren't exactly igniting. That's why we have all of this flint and steel. For this farm, flint and steel is required. Other portal ticking gold farms can use things like fire charges to ignite the portals, but because I have fire tick turned off on this world, flint and steel is the only thing that's gonna work. I don't actually want these to ignite just yet because I have nowhere for the piglins to go, and if I flood this area with piglins, that's gonna be big problems. So what I'm gonna do from here is build out a platform underneath the portals to catch the piglins, and I'm gonna make sure to leave a 2-block gap below the portal so that the piglins can clear the portals and get flushed to the center. I'm standing directly underneath the corner of one of these portals, and I need to count out starting right here on this block, 7 blocks this direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and do that all the way across. Another thing to consider as well is that piglin spawns are directional, and I really didn't take that into consideration in this world, but I do know that if I extend this platform to 1 block on either side of the portals, I won't have any problems. If they spawn on this side, they'll fall right here, or if they spawn over here, they'll fall on this side of the platform. It costs you just a little bit of extra resources, but in my opinion, if you don't want to waste time figuring out which direction your portals are facing, it's not a big deal. From here, I've got a 7-block platform, and I'm going to bring it down by 1, and then bring it forward by 3 more blocks, and then get rid of this temporary block right here, and same thing, build this out all the way across. Once you have that platform complete, the edge of this block should align with the center of the portal, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing over on this side, except for one small difference. And that difference is that this lower platform on the other side is only 2 blocks wide, whereas this one was 3. The reason for that is because this is the center point, but if we push all of the piglins into one block in the center point, there's a higher chance that they're going to get stuck and bounce off of each other, which would slow down the rates at the farm. So we're going to widen the gap. From here, I just need to put a wall around this, making sure that I'm not going to put the wall in any of the spawn spots. So this being at the edge of the portal is fine. This being a potential spawn spot right here, I'm going to extend it out one more and then build the wall up. Before I place any water in here, I'm going to put down some signs. Otherwise, the water would just overflow and pour down into the next section of the farm, which is not what we want to happen. So to prevent that, I'm just going to crouch and place signs all the way across here. And same thing on the other side. Now I can just fill the entire farm in with water along the back wall on both sides so that regardless of where a piglin spawns in this farm, it will drop down and get flushed to the center. Now I need to work out the trident killer to where these piglins are going to get defeated. So in order to do that, I'm going to drop this platform down by 1 right here. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to drop this one down by 3. And with that, I've run out of glass. Time to hit the desert. Back from the desert with glass in hand, I've gone ahead and finished up the Trident Killer box. As mentioned earlier, all the piglins get flushed to the center of the farm, which is right here. They'll drop down into this little box, and I'm going to put another water stream right here to push them forward, and all of the piglins except for the baby piglins will get caught right here, and they won't be able to move any farther, and they won't be able to move backwards. They'll basically be trapped against this wall. I'll explain what's happening with the loot and baby piglins in a second, but right in the corner of this glass and this glass right here, I'm going to add in some trident killers. To start building the trident killer, I'm going to put a trapdoor right here and a trapdoor right here that lines up with this little gap, and I'm going to crouch and stand on top of this trapdoor, and then I'm going to open this top one, and it should force me down into a crawl, and from here I can start putting forward-facing pistons this direction. Again, there needs to be a 1-block gap between here and the wall of the piglin capture chamber. And once I have all of these pistons in place, I'm gonna need to put some tridents here on every single piston. And unfortunately, I don't have any. Hold that thought. I'm gonna go hunting for tridents a little bit later, but let's finish the build first. Out of the back of these pistons, I'm going to place 1 piece of redstone dust to connect them all up, and then I'm going to build out the circuitry to power these out of the back of the center piston right here. There are 15 pistons. The 8th piston on either side should be the center point. In order to power the trident killer, I'm going to build out a comparator clock, and they're really simple. I'm gonna place 1 comparator right here, followed by redstone dust in a loop that goes back into the side of the comparator. I'm going to right click on the comparator so that that front light turns on. And then if I receive any kind of full signal strength power source from the back of this comparator, it's going to start ticking rapidly, which then if I connect this redstone line up with these pistons, it's going to start rapidly pushing them forward and back. That's very loud and obnoxious, and so I'm going to turn it off for now, but you get the point. Whenever I do get tridents stored in here, it's going to push those tridents forward into the corner of the block and start taking out the piglins one by one. Also, I should mention as well, this is a large project. I've explained very little about how this works. I'm basically covering how to build it first, but I will go over how the entire redstone circuit works together when we're done with the project. So speaking of explaining things a little bit more, one thing I had to take into consideration when designing this farm is that if I'm going to have all of this connected up to one switch, which I am, I need to make sure that these portals will stop ticking, but allow the trident killer to run a little bit longer to finish off any remaining piglins. In order to accomplish that, I'm going to build a redstone comparator pulse extender, and I'm going to start by placing 2 pieces of redstone dust right here, and 1 piece of redstone dust right here, and I've already got a block that's going to absorb some power as well. Just a little quick tip for you. If you put redstone dust like this on both sides, you'll get a pretty decent timing out of your pulse extender, but if you place a block on one corner like that, it will extend the pulse just a little bit longer, and I think this is what we need in order for this to work the right way. So from here, I'm going to place comparators on the rest of these blocks. So all of these in this line are going that direction, and all of these in line are going back towards this block. Then all I need to do is put a redstone repeater right here, and the trident killer circuit is done, except for it needs to be connected up to the switch. Connecting this up is really simple. I'm going to place one block on this side of the piston right here, and then a redstone dust. That redstone is powered, and then I'll put a redstone torch right here on this side of the block, which will depower that torch. And then going 2 blocks below that redstone torch, I'll go ahead and break that temporary block and put another piece of redstone right here, followed by another torch, and then 2 blocks down, break that block, and redstone dust right there. And I'm going to keep repeating this process until we get down to this level right down here, and this is called a cascading torch tower. And basically what it does is carries a redstone signal downward in a pretty compact way. And if you're following along and have done this correctly, this bottom torch should be depowered so that the trident killer and the farm itself are both powered off by default. So I mentioned earlier that the piglins would get trapped here, but the baby piglins, the XP, and the loot will all get flushed down into another section, which we need to build now. And it's pretty simple. I'm just going to build a 1 wide trench diagonal to this gap in the capture chamber, and then directly below this redstone line, because I know that it is dead center of the farm, I'm going to dig out a 1 wide gap and drop this down yet one more time. And from here, this is where we're going to use some blue ice. And actually, now that I think about it, I didn't do it this way in my original design, but I think I'm going to adapt this on the fly here. I'm going to replace this with blue ice as well. So let's talk about blue ice. Why do we want to use it? Well, the first reason is that this ice will not melt around light sources, or regular ice will. Packed ice will not melt either, but blue ice is slightly faster when transporting items along a water stream. So if you have the option, blue ice is the way to go. It does not transport mobs faster, so they will go the regular speed as well. So all of the XP and the loot are going to come zipping down this line, along with some baby zombie piglins that get through this trap up here because they're too short. So I'm going to build a custom trap for them down here because I don't want them ending up on the top floor and trying to attack me while I'm AFK. So one thing I actually need to change with the pulse extender, this block right here needs to be a solid block because of the way that I'm going to wire this up. The rest of this can be transparent. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to carry a redstone signal, but this block here and this block here both need to be solid, because in order for this torch that I'm putting down right here to interact with this redstone, it has to be sitting on a solid block. After I've placed this torch down, I'm going to put another block directly below it and put redstone dust on top of it, along with a redstone torch right here, followed by another comparator clock like we built on the original trident killer, except for this one's not going to have a pulse extender because it is feeding off of this one. And then I'll just run some redstone right here into a solid block with a piston on the side of this solid block facing back toward the farm. And then I'm going to take a trapdoor below this piston and on the side of this block, just like that. And this is just short enough to trap the baby zombified piglins. And on top of this trapdoor, I'm going to put 1 trident. And that way these piglins will meet the same fate as the piglins up here. This trapdoor will not stop any of the XP or loot from flowing through, so they'll go on through to the water elevator, which I'm going to build next. Oh yeah, just make sure to close this in so that none of the piglins can get out. Okay, I know I'm building this slightly out of order because there's a lot to it, so just bear with me. But before we get to the water elevator, let's actually work on the water down here first. So in the piglin capture chamber, where the trident killer is, I'm going to put some signs like we did up here, all the way across this gap, and that will keep the water stream flowing this direction, separated from the water stream down here that's going to flow this direction. And I'll do the same thing right here. I'll place a sign down there to keep the water from this flow separated from this flow, and then we should be good. All I need to do is place in the water. Well, hey again. Somehow we're up here now. And holy smokes, this thing took so much longer to build than I expected. And you're probably thinking to yourself right now, BluJay, this is a gold farm tutorial and you just built half the thing without a tutorial. Technically, anything above the gold farm that I've built here is unnecessary. That's not exactly true, but in a sense it's unnecessary because you could stand down here at the bottom of this water stream and collect all of the XP and items into your inventory and then take them off to wherever you want. So the gold farm is functional without anything else up there, but it's not very practical. So why did I not do a tutorial on this? Because I know you're gonna ask in the comments. Well, one, several of these things we're gonna go over in a separate episode, and in the past when I've built a gold farm on this channel, I've actually split it into 2 videos. But don't worry, I'm still gonna explain what everything is and how it works. But before I explain that, I'm gonna have to go off and take a dive in the ocean for probably another several hours if I had to guess, because I have 16 pistons that need 16 tridents total, and with my luck, these drowned are not gonna give me a trident very quickly. I'll see you on the other side. One hour and 16 tridents later, it's time to go home. Let's get this gold farm up and running. If you have access to mending and impaling 5, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put it on all of your tridents, but I'm wanting to get this done today, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do these as is and add the enchantments later. Just know that impaling 5 will speed up the farm because it will take less hits to take out the zombie piglins. All right. All of the tridents are in place, so now it's time to go through and explain how all of this monstrosity of redstone in this gold farm works. The first piece of this is actually really simple, and it starts with a lever. When you flip this lever, it's going to power this redstone below, and then depower that torch, depower that redstone, power that torch, depower that redstone, depower that torch, depower this entire line, which will then invert the signals on all of these redstone pieces and torches all the way down this torch tower, which we talked about earlier, and that will start up this circuit right here. This piston will rapidly tick up and down, which will power this redstone line, which will then turn all of this redstone on to power these dispensers, which will have flint and steel inside, which will light all of the portals. Then this redstone at the same time will go off, and then it will rapidly tick back on to power these bottom dispensers, which are going to contain water buckets to break the portals, and that will just go back and forth, igniting and extinguishing the portals over and over. While all of that is going on, the inverted signal of the torch tower will power this pulse extender, which will then power this comparator clock and rapidly tick these pistons on and off, and the same thing with this comparator clock, which will power this piston on and off. When these pistons are moving forward and back, they will push these tridents into the corner of this block right here, which happens to be at the head height of where the piglins are standing and being pushed forward by this water stream. Once all of the piglins are defeated, all of the items and XP will go into the water stream, and they'll flow right on over here to this water elevator, which will then get pushed up all the way to the first platform. And this is where we get into all of the stuff that I built without any kind of tutorial. And again, let me reiterate, this stuff right here, this is the sorting system. We're gonna build some sorting systems in this series, and normally I would do this as part of a separate video, but I went ahead and built it today. But just as a simple explanation of how these work, the items are gonna get pushed along this water stream, and you'll notice there's a chest sitting right here. This is not for storage, it's actually for redirecting the items. When the water pushes the items into the edge of this chest, the hitbox of this chest is just small enough that it will push the items to the edge of the ice and keep them there, and then they'll continue on flowing this direction, and because those items are actually on the very edge of this block, they're close enough to these hoppers to be picked up. Inside these hoppers are items, the first of which are subscribe to BluJay Lapis. You should definitely do that if you haven't already. Please. And the reason why they're renamed is so that nothing else in the game can match this name, and these items will never get filtered out. The first section of the sorting system is glowing sacks, not because the piglins can drop that, but because it is kind of dark down there and there is a chance that glow squid could spawn. I did have that happen in my test world, so I went ahead and threw a filter there just in case. Then the zombie piglins will also drop rotten flesh, gold ingots, and and gold nuggets. And all of those items will get sorted into their own lane, which will then go to one of these 4 water elevators in the corner and on up to their individual storage chests. Zombie piglins also drop gold swords, which are not stackable, so they're not going to go into a sorting system, but they're going to go into these hoppers right here, which are not filtered, and they go directly into blast furnaces. These blast furnaces will smelt the gold swords into gold nuggets, and those gold nuggets will get pushed along the same hopper line as the item filter right here, and on up to the gold nugget storage as well. All of these chests are just for coal input into the furnaces, so we make sure not to run out. And actually, it doesn't even necessarily have to be coal. Any fuel source will do. I might even use blaze rods because I kind of have a backlog of those. And that takes care of the explanation of all of the items, but we still have the experience points. These hoppers will not pick up any of that, and they will continue to flow along until they reach this next water elevator. And you might notice here as well, I've got buttons along the side and the water completely exposed. The reason for this is because the XP could potentially get stuck. And I don't want it getting stuck on the corner of a block because it's already riding the edge of this ice right here. So the XP will just kind of flow on up here and then along another water stream with blue ice and then into this section right here. These trapdoors are where I'm going to be standing, so all of the XP will be special delivery to BluJay. One last thing to explain how the item elevators work for the sorting system. This is a simple comparator circuit that will read if anything is inside of this dispenser, so whenever any items come flowing along, it will send a signal out and basically shoot the items up through the water. So now I'm going to give you a quick glimpse behind the curtain. After all of that explanation, I tested this farm probably 4 or 5 different times and ran into some pretty significant issues that I have since resolved, and I have confirmed it is now working. But before we get the actual test going, enjoy the blunders of BluJay. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Gold farm test number 1 is now live. Why are the portals not lighting? Oh, I know. Oh, stop, wait, turn off, don't waste flint and steel, panic mode. All of these bottom dispensers need to be on by default and the water needs to be flowing. So allow me to break this and then replace it. There we go. Water flowing on dispenser number 1. I need to do that 4 more times. And 3, 2, 1. Test number 2 is now live. Let's check out the portals and what? What is going on? Oh, this is really not good. I figured out what the problem was, and thankfully, it's an easy fix. Watch what happens when I try to light the portal, which to me means this portal is too big. Oh, what have I done? I've counted over here, and it is 23 blocks wide, which is totally fine, but it's 24 blocks tall. BluJay, learn to count. Thankfully, nothing up there is going to be affected by this, but I need to lower this entire portal by 1 block on every single one. Portal size has been adjusted. Let's do test number 3. Please work. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh, it's promising. I see purple flashes. That's great. Oh, good news. Good news indeed. Now, are the piglins dropping where they should? Yes, they are. Perfect. Oh, no. Test number 4 incoming. I forgot to load the furnaces. What's that old saying? 4th time's the charm? Sure, we'll go with that. And I'm not even gonna count this one in. Let's go. Test number 4 is underway. And there comes the XP. It's a little bit slower than the loot, but that's not a problem. And I can just wait right here for it to come on up the water elevator. Come on, XP, let's go. Oh no, why is it getting stuck? I can't win. I know some of you more technical people out there are expecting a polished tutorial. This ain't it. Sometimes Minecraft is all about trial and error, and because I didn't build all of this in my test world, I'm kind of figuring it out as I go in this world, and sometimes that's just the best way to do things because you need to adapt to your environment. So what I have done here is I have pushed the XP into a wall. That way it reorients itself to the center of the block and not the edge, and it will flow on around here to this water elevator and no longer get stuck. And so what is this now? Test number 5? Let's give it a go. Okay, all the loot is flowing like it should once again, and we should start seeing some XP here shortly. There it is. Hello. Now, watch. It's gonna flow perfectly. I just know it. It's gonna work. Yes, there we go. All right, XP, come to me. And just watch how quickly that XP bar fills up. So fast. Amazing. Beautiful. I mean, look at this. Look at all the gold nuggets we already have. And some gold ingots. And some rotten flesh. I haven't seen any glow ink just yet, so I'm not sure if we're spawning any of the squid, but I'll keep an eye on it. The last couple of things I want to mention about this farm, we got this beautiful building in progress for the iron farm, and this one is just a massive hole in the ground. Not quite on theme there, Blue. That is actually intentional because the Tricky Trials 1.21 update was just announced to be released on June 13th, and along with that is gonna come the crafter. So with the crafter, I'm probably gonna modify a bunch of this anyway, which I will give you a tutorial on. That's kind of why I didn't want to do a whole lot of explanation on this piece of it yet, because it is gonna get modified and we can go over it at that time. And once I've determined how big this is actually gonna be with the crafter involved, then I can start putting a building around this. But until then, this farm is done for now. In the meantime, I'm just gonna stand here and rack up XP. Whew, that was a lot. I don't know about you, but I'm tired.